Hi everyone and welcome to episode 4 of Bear News. This week we are literally giving the people what they've asked for as I interview Mark Langford in what I'm terming the experience episode. Hope you enjoy, and as ever, if there's anyone you want to see on Bear News or any thoughts, feedback as to how we can make it better, just let me know. Cheers everyone. Okay. Langers, welcome. Episode 4 of Bear News. Bozzy did a bit of a poll on Instagram as to who the people want to see interviewed next, and you overwhelmingly, mate, it was Mark Langford. I mean, experience Langers, and we've not had too many of them on this show recently.
Yeah.
So just first and foremost, mate, how's it going in lockdown? Are you managing to keep yourself busy?
Yeah, I'm doing my best. I'm doing a few jobs around the house, driving Sharon crazy when she comes home and said, I asked you to do that and you haven't. But yeah, just keeping everybody happy. You can't do it all at once, can you?
Good stuff, mate. And how many meals and care packages have been dropped off around at Nick's house over the past 6 weeks?
Do you know, not seen a lot of Nick. He's been, you know, we get a few texts and he's sort of, what's the word? He's busy and, you know, doing bits and bobs, but he's sorry, I just lost your picture for a moment then. I touched something I shouldn't have done. I'm not a techie, but yeah, he's fine as far as I know. I've been watching I've been having some texts. He's been painting his fence and he does one panel and then goes somewhere else and then comes back, and then another day he'll paint another fence, and he said, what a cracking job. And I said, yeah, you know, one panel every week should keep you going for a while.
All I've seen, mate, from his pictures of fire pits in San Miguel. I don't know about anyone else, but
yes, yeah, fire pits in San
Miguel. Is the hot tub getting any hammer?
It had it for about 3 weeks, but I think, as I've explained to people before, I think you need the pocket of a small Arab state to keep it running. It's a lot of money, but we've had a few interesting nights watching the moon and things like that. So yeah, it has come in useful. It's one of those things when you get it, you think brilliant, and you're in it all the time, and then after a year, yeah, it's still in there. I'm thinking, you know, if I really wanted to get rid of it, how could I do it? And I need a giant clean. So yeah.
I mean, well, good to hear, mate. Good to hear, and you're looking well for isolation. So,
yeah, well, so the reason why I've got my hat on is because, well, my hair's like Freddie Boswell, and not many can remember it. So
mine's not great. They were going to be tied under my ears at one point. I've had to take the plunge and trim them back. But so we'll crack on with the episode, mate. What I'm terming the experience episodes, Langers, and I don't know what point in your career you become experienced, but there's a couple of rumblings in the first team in particular that me and Halls are starting to take on that mantle. So I don't know what age you start to become an experienced head, but it seems as though we're starting to take that. So obviously you're in and around the second team now. I asked this question of Moose a couple of weeks ago, but how much importance do you place on your role within the twos in developing these young lads through, and I guess how much of a drive does that give you to keep getting out of bed on a Saturday and going and play cricket?
Do you know, a lot of people who know me, they've known me for a lot of years know I've played at a fair few clubs in my time. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. You know, one or two people will say, oh, you know, he's had more clubs than Nick Faldo and things like that. But you gain a lot of experience and you play with a lot of different players. And I think in all the times that I've played cricket, actually, playing with Cookney in the second team has been one of the, I think possibly because of my age, but it's been one of the most uplifting things I've had. And more so since I've stopped captaining. Captaining was your own game, you know, tends to take a bit of a back seat. But we had some great years with the kids that came through. But playing with Boz now and having this understanding where he'll just walk by and ask if there's anything what I think it's brilliant. But the thing that keeps me young is playing in the twos and in the dressing room with the lads. After I've said to Nick and I said to Sharon, you know, it's fantastic to be just sat there and taking it all in, sat in the corner. Somebody will come in with a beer and listening to the Danny Browns and the Bagsies and the Chris Murphys and the Mark Walkers and Richard will stand there with very little clothes on, and he'll start putting his ridiculous music on, like Frankie Valli and stuff like that. And it's that what keeps you young. So yeah, I'm you know, I know people have taken the mickey saying, you know, oh, you're always going to retire. I said, well, I actually haven't said that since about 2016. But it's to play with some of these kids is brilliant, and it keeps me young.
Yeah, that's great stuff, mate. I think, you know, even for me with this isolation period, you know, I played first team now for bloody 17, 18 years, and I think that when it's taken away from you, you realise how much you miss it. You know, that hunger and desire to get back there has certainly been igniting in me, and I'm sure in a few of the boys as well. We're kind of going to get back out there. So again, I asked this question of Moose a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, who do you see as the next big thing to break through that second team into the first team, or even from the third team through the second team into the first team?
There's a number. I mean, I know there's a number of players, and I know Moose mentioned young Starring, the wicketkeeper. I think I was away when he played, and he looks, you know, it looks like a cricketer to me from the sort of film I've seen. There's another. I mean, we have had a bit of a dearth of wicket keepers, you know, in the last few years, but now we've got another kid as well, Ewan Lawton, who, if we can get Ewan interested, you know, because he does have a lot of other things going off in his life, but if we could get that kid interested, he's got good hands, a middle order batter, he could be a decent cricketer, and the one thing about Ewan is he's a good character to have around as well, which is one of the things that probably keeps you playing, keeps everybody playing. Bowling wise, Josh Barrett, Josh is an enigma to me, and I know he'll probably look at this, and his dad will look at this, and we have talked a great deal. But if you've got a kid that can move it both ways, which Josh can, then there has to be a progression, a natural progression at some time, and he's probably 75% of the way there to being a real established second team bowler. And I think it's a confidence thing, an ability thing, but there's a bit going off in there. But there's a cricketer. I think there's a cricketer in there. Yeah. I mean, Josh Porter's made it. Danny Hadlow. You know, these are all sort of been the next cab off the rank, and they're progressing.
Definitely, and yeah, the future's definitely bright, which is great to see. You mentioned there, you know, character, Langers, and I guess one of the questions I wanted to ask, you know, although you were probably at the back end of your first team career as I was coming through, we've played in similar dressing rooms over the years. Do you think that club cricket now is softer than it was, you know, 10, 15, 20 years ago? Do you think that players are built differently, or do you think that club cricket at its core is still the same as it was, you know, 10 or 15 years ago?
I think that club cricket, I'm not going to be one of those old boys that say, oh, it was so much better years ago, because it's cobblers. The cricketers have always been cricketers. I think some of the cricketers now that are coming through are probably at least as good as the guys when I was your age and younger. I think the problem with cricket is that there's not so many now. There's not you know, when I was a kid, there was 10 cricket clubs literally in and around Sutton and Kirkby. Now there's 2, Hoseley Mills and Kirkby Portland. So that's the thing. I think in terms of attitude on the field, I think it's a bit more, it's attritional, it's a bit of a war. Premier League seems to me to be like that. Second team is slightly less, but you still get that level of teams that want to be in the Premiership and a win at all costs attitude. But I think that if you were looking at players of yesteryear, probably the humour and the banter was probably a bit more subtle than it is now.
Yeah, I think.
But as regards cricketers, I don't think there's. I just think that some of the players that I see now are as good as anything I've played against. Certainly.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And, you know, the game moves on, and, you know, technology and whatever. You know, people didn't used to video themselves when you were playing, and certainly I was first coming through. There's a lot more available to players nowadays to develop games, which is only beneficial, I guess, to to clubs. So we'll move on just to talk a little bit about current Bear news. So you might have seen over social media over the past kind of week or so, there's been a bit of a challenge knocking around. So 5 days worth of fitness challenges.
Yeah, try to avoid it. But yeah,
fantastically well organised as ever by Bosnia.
Congratulations, I think it was.
Well, you know, thank you. I wasn't going to mention it, but yeah, I won. So what I've got is I've got some questions here in terms of some times, and I want you to tell me if they're true or false, or answer accordingly. So here we go. So question 1 is true or false? The fastest 2K was done by Matt Beer.
False.
That's true, mate.
Is it? But
Yeah,
you asked me to not to think about it, and I thought I'd give it. But then I was thinking, sort of, he hasn't got. It doesn't carry a lot of timber, does Matt? And there again, Matt Beer is one of those lads which, you know, he's starting to come out of himself and could be a good cricketer. But
definitely,
yeah,
I would agree with that. So yeah, 7 minutes 31, Matt Beer. The slowest actually was Bagsy, who was 13 minutes. I don't know what he was doing. He obviously didn't do much cardio, Bagsy. He just lifted the weight. Yeah, 13 minutes. So right, question 2. The longest plank was 8 minutes 2, and that was done by Mark Walker, Tom Keast, or me.
The obvious answer is Mark Walker, but I'm going to go with you.
It was, yeah. 8 minutes. 8 minutes 2 was the longest plank. It was done by myself. Just need to get that.
I don't know what a plank is, but
not to drop the 8 minute plank in there, but yeah, it was 8 minutes. Right, Gaz Price did the longest wall sit. How long was it? 4 minutes 30, 6 minutes 30, or 8 minutes 30?
What is this? What was it?
A wall sit. So it's where you put your back against a wall and do almost a sitting position.
Right. 6 minutes.
8 minutes 30 to sit against the wall. Gaz Price, who obviously a fit lad. Tom Elliott or Dan Hadlow did the shortest 500-metre sprint.
Tom Elliott.
It was Tom Elliott, and actually, it was joint first actually with Matt Beer again, 1 minute 28. So obviously Matt Beer's got a bit in the tank in terms of these running and fitness. But the slowest was Bozzy, who did 2 minutes. Again, not a ridiculously poor time there to do 5 minutes. You're laughing because I know about as fit as Boz is as you do, mate. The finalist one is the shortest combined 25 sit-ups, press-ups, and squats was 1 minute 16. True or false? It was Mark Walker that did it.
True.
It was, yeah. That is the office answer given Wacker's profession. So he's
in the wrong trade if he didn't.
Exactly. And the final question, because I just quite like this question, it's nothing to do with the fitness challenge, but the quick fire round is, who within the club do you think will be your worst isolation buddy, and why?
These have got to be really quick, haven't they? A worst isolation buddy would probably be Nicholas.
Do we need to explore any more detail on that, or should we just leave it at that?
No, he gets bored, and he wouldn't. He would sit there and he'd be blowing, and then he'd be wanting to go somewhere and saying I'm bored, and you know, you'd feel as if it's your fault at the end of it. You know, the old thing. COVID-19 is. So yeah, Nicholas.
I know exactly where you're coming from. Brilliant. So that's the end of the quick fire round. My final question is actually a little bit of a deeper, meaningful, because as much as you've been involved in the cricket and around the game, you've just alluded to Nick there. You're obviously a parent of a lad who's kind of come through the system and come through the game, and I guess the question is around, you know, I've played cricket with Nick for years, and I 100% still believe that, you know, had he have pursued cricket as his career, he'd have had not just a first-class career, but a pretty successful first-class career, given how his talent that was shining through at a young age. He was obviously involved in football and, you know, took that path and went to Mansfield Town. How difficult is that, I guess, to balance as a parent when you've got a lad who plays dual sports, and how much input and influence do you want to have, can you have, and I guess what would your advice be for any parents out there who are struggling in a similar situation?
At the end of the, without being sounding cliche, at the end of the day and stuff like that, you have to let your son, daughter, make their own decision. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but we had a conversation, and I think it's pretty well documented that he was lined up. He got career and a contract offered, and Mansfield Town turned his head, and I can remember him quite clearly saying to me, "Mansfield Town's in here," and he'd also been playing cricket since a young age, and he'd been playing at Notts in the twos, and I remember his summer holiday where he spent almost 4 weeks in a hotel with the likes of Mark Foote and Luke Fletcher, and sitting there having meals at 8 o'clock at night when his friends were doing whatever they were doing around here, and he just said, "I need a break." And Mansfield Town came at either the right time or the wrong time, and he chose his football. And do you know what? I as Nick would probably not tell you. It's all about personalities. I mean, he made his debut in the first team, and then 5 weeks later, the guy sacked. And David Olsworth came in and didn't want kids. He wanted athletic guys, 6'1", with a bit of experience. But let your boy do it. I read something with Gary Neville. It was either Gary Neville or Phil Neville, and their dad, the interestingly named Neville, said they had a chance of playing cricket and football, and he said, he turned around and said, "No, you do not play cricket. You won't make it. You will be a footballer. Your best chances with that." So I decided that I wasn't going to do that, and Sharon said the same thing. I would say to any parent, you've got to let your child do it. And but in that sense, if Nick ever becomes a dad or whatever, he might think different when he gets to that stage. And certainly, he's turned out a good kid, and made that decision. It would have been lovely. I'm not gonna lie to you. It'd been lovely if he'd have made it, but there's a lot of ifs and ands. Yeah. He might not have made it. So yeah, that's how I feel.
That's a bit of a deeper meaningful, but I think it's important that as a parent that we get that across to the people. Like we're of all ages on Bear News here, so yeah, appreciate the honesty and the answer there, mate. So that's it, mate. That's that's the end of the interview. Massively appreciate your time as ever. Stay safe and keep going in isolation, mate. And hopefully we get a chance to catch up soon.
No worries, mate. You take care. Look after yourself, sir.
Thanks, mate.
Mum and Dad.
Cheers, pal.
Cheers, mate.
Bye.
Take care.